Over the past year, I have been making over tons of furniture to help my DIY projects and renovating my 1950s home. Well, today we will tackle the very first one for the year, and I can't wait to share it with you. This dresser came with a mirror, but I decided to remove it and sell it separately. I noticed in the past that most people are not all that interested in matching mirrors with my pieces, and it doesn't necessarily add value, at least in the client's mind. So to avoid being asked, how much for just a dresser? Or will you sell only the dresser? Would you take less for only the dresser and not the mirror? I usually just sell the mirrors on their own, and then this way I can usually recoup the amount I paid for the piece itself as well. I will be reusing the hardware, so I removed the hardware as well as the drawers and made sure to write the number on the back of the drawer so I knew where it belonged. This is a pretty old piece and it had a lot of dust and dirt at the bottom of the drawer, so I vacuumed as much as I could before going in and cleaning with some TSP substitute. I laid the dresser on its side and addressed the bottom decorative piece. It was split and warped, so I went ahead and removed it. Because the curved shape that it had, I knew I personally couldn't achieve the same original look, so while I decided on what I would do, I moved on to the drawer fronts. I used some premium 15-minute stripper and applied a thick coat with a chip brush. At this point, I still couldn't decide on what to do about the bottom, so I moved on to scuff sanding using 120 grit. After 15 minutes was up, I scraped all of the existing finish. I repeated the same steps for a second time to remove any stubborn old finish and then scrubbed all of them down with some mineral spirits and then wiped down with a rag. These drawer fronts do have a veneer on them, and although it's not super thin, I prefer to strip them and then sand to avoid the possibility of blowing through it. So once the drawer fronts were dry, I sanded them down using 120 grit followed by 220. There were a couple of spots that were missing some veneer, so I went ahead and filled them in using some DAP Premium Wood Filler. One of the drawer fronts had a small chip that I also filled in, but I used regular plastic wood filler. After giving the drawers a good cleaning, because remember I skipped it at the beginning since I was going to be stripping, I began staining using the color Special Walnut from Minwax. To prime, most of you know I tend to use a variety, but the application method, unless sprayed, is the same. Using a foam roller, I applied 2 coats of bench shellac primer and sanded between the coats with 320 grit to smooth out any rough edges. So you guys saw me stain this drawer front, and then I realized I wasn't too crazy about the color and I actually prefer the natural finish than this. So I'm gonna try to sand this away or sand it back to the original form or to the original wood color. It does have a veneer on it, so hopefully I can get all of that off. If I can't, then I guess I'll be staining all of them, but we'll see what it looks like. Now for the bottom base. I decided on using a scrap piece of 1x5 primed pine board I had and cut the board at an angle and then to the length to match the side. This is only decorative and has no structural support. The existing 2 sides have 4 points of contact and provided the dresser with enough support that I didn't have to worry about that. So I glued, followed by screws and a few finishing nails to attach it. To paint this dresser, I am using the Valspar Signature Paint in the color Iron Ore. And yes, this is the exact same paint I used in my last project. I'll have it linked if you're interested in watching it. I have plenty of it left over, so I figured I'd use it up as much as I could. A couple of the drawers had some of the sides that had came undone, so I glued them back together. I lightly sanded with 320 grit before applying the second coat of paint and then cleaned up the hardware with my barkeeper's friend. I dried them off and then added a light coat of gold spray paint. Okay, so for these drawer fronts, I'm going to be using, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Odie's oil or Odie's oil. I've never actually used this before. I've heard really good things about it. It is quite expensive, so just FYI, if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, I would probably not use this. This was like $46 for this tiny can. Mind you, it is probably going to go a long ways, but just FYI. Now, this came with actual instructions from the company that I bought it from, Peachtree Service or Peachtree Woodworks. I don't remember what it was called. I got it off of Amazon. I'll link it down in the description for you if you're interested. But it basically says shake, stir well, and then you can apply it with a rag, a brush, or 4/0 steel wool. I didn't run out of rags, but I don't want to use a rag that isn't lint free, that's the only kind that I have right now. So I'm going to use 4/0 steel wool and see how that applies. It says you're supposed to apply it and work it into the wood. Wait 30 minutes and check to see if it's dry. If it's dry, you may want to add a second coat until it stops absorbing the product. I don't know how many times that's going to take, but after that, you should wait no less than 40 minutes and no longer than 20 hours before buffing it out to whatever sheen you prefer. The more you buff it, obviously, the higher sheen it's going to be. It smells really nice. It's supposed to be food safe, so that's another option if you're looking for something that's food safe. This apparently is. So yeah, let's go ahead and try it. I'm gonna see what it looks like. As you can see, I'm leaving the drawer fronts as is. The back panel of the dresser was slightly coming undone, so I put a few staples to keep it back in place. Just like the instructions said, I came back 40 minutes later and buffed the drawer fronts with a cotton rag and then added the hardware back. I used Varathane polyurethane in a matte finish, and I used the brush I painted with to help tint it to try and avoid as many streaks as possible. I repeated this twice for 2 coats with a light sand in between. Move your coco. Hey, Coco. Want your coco? Araña. Aquí. Beep beep. I will add some feed and wax to the insides of the drawers before listing it on Facebook Marketplace. But for now, the reveal. Let's remember what this dresser used to look like and what it looks like now. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video or found some inspiration. As always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video if you enjoyed it, and also turn on your post notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. I love y'all, be kind, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.